Before making this film, the tallest peak in Wales has always been known to me as Snowdon. I saw a petition that called for it to be referred to only in its Welsh name, and it got me thinking about how we can know a place through the names that we use. So I start my journey with a map and a memory. The people that I met along the way shared the pronunciations and the stories of the place names that surround them, so I too could come to know the peak as Ywydfa. Carnarvon, Anglesey Coastal Path, Llyn Ogwen, Tolldy, Llanberis,
My name is John Evans. I was born in Carnarvon. I have lived here most of my life. I love the area. It's so beautiful. I walk the mountains, not all the time. We do walk on the coastal path, Anglesey, the Llyn Peninsula, etc. So all in all, you've got everything that you want here. The mountains and the peaks have always had Welsh names going back hundreds of years. Snowdon itself, I presume the name came from the Victorians at the time because there was snow always up there. But to us local people, it's always been Yr Wyddfa. Same in the Ogwen Valley, there's the infamous Devil's Kitchen, which is obviously somebody's named it afterwards, and it's actually called Tulldy, the black hole in Welsh. Yeah. And on the map it's down as Tulldy. There was a big fuss last week about a house on Anglesey, I believe, that's new owners, and they've changed the Welsh name and called the place Sandy Retreat. You know, it's lack of respect for Wales and the Welsh language. It's the gradual erosion and Anglicisation of the Welsh names. I know one house in 1,000 changing its name is not going to make any difference, but if you live locally and that house, you know, and you've known the people or the families who have lived there, and somebody comes along and changes the name, it's so sad. Mm-hmm.
Cerin, Cleithant, Tap Nithoreri, Bolca Groes,
Croeso I fferm y Cerdyn. Welcome to Cerdyn Farm. The name means mountain ash. One mountain ash is Cerdynen, more than one is Cerdyn. So behind us we've got a few mountain ash here, so that's why we called it Cerdyn. The name farm came from that. Over here there's Teithlant. That's called Teithlant because in the 6th century the Saint Santidecho, one of his housekeepers slipped into the stream and lost the milk. So the saying is that Decho turned the water into milk, so that's why it's called Teithlant, milk stream really. So yeah, so that's the name behind that. Then over there we've got Tap Neither that's Tap Neither means there must have been eagles here sometime. So that is where eagle's nest really, to translate it, where the Welsh name is Tap Neither. So not just we keep the Welsh names, we keep the history behind the names. So there must have been eagles here one time. So that's going back in history. It gives us a lot of what people lived here, what kind of people, and also what animals were here as well. There's a pass going up here called Bulgagroes. People call it Hellfire Pass because once you cycle up or walk up it's quite steep, so it's a hell of a pass. Well, you know, it's not a meaning really. Bulgagroes, there's a cross there, there's always been a cross there on Bulgagroes, and that's Pass of the Cross it's called in. So, you know, call it Hellfire Pass, it's got no meaning at all. But call it Bulgagroes, when you go up the pass you can see the cross up there. Let's not change the name, but just use the Welsh name. Everything is being done through the Welsh in the authority. So let's keep that. We're the only authority in the UK which use our indigenous language as the mainstream language within the authority. Why should we use another version? And same, you know, when we call a Wyddfa, why should we change that to Snowdon and Snowdonia? Keep the Welsh language. I'm proud of the Welsh language. Let us use the Welsh language.
You Wyddfa. Llyn Bochlwyd. Driftwyn a Dydwy.
So my name is Jessica John and I'm the Cultural Heritage Project Officer for Snowdonia National Park, which tells you nothing about what I do really. But I mainly look at the history of our culture, heritage, so that includes place names, oral history, kind of lots of a hodgepodge of lovely things, which are almost all intangible heritage. It's this heritage that you can't really touch or feel, but yet is the jam that glues everything between landscape and people together. Awydfa and Snowdon are two really old names. You know, Snowdon does go back, they believe, down to Anglo-Saxon, Viking, and so does Awydfa. So Awydfa is actually the grave of a giantess called Rita Cawr. Rita Cawr, in historical documents, is actually a bloke and normal sized, and he has a good fight with Arthur, the Arthur, who's a local here. But then as historic, you know, stories become myths, they become larger than life characters, usually giants. And Rita also used to collect beards to make a cloak, particularly wanting Arthur's beard, and that's probably why they got into a fight. It's not as easy, I don't think. It would be for a lot of people, just keep it native, keep it Welsh. But for me, as you know, looking at it as historian, it's not easy as saying, just go with the older one, go with the Welsh one, go with the 20th century one. If there is evidence that has been changed very recently, I think the one that's quite used quite often is Llyn Bochlwyd. It's in the north of Eryri. Changed to Australia Lake. Not officially, but a lot of people call it Australia Lake because of the shape of it. Now, all the stories that I've been telling you that's connected to Welsh place names, by changing it to Australia Lake, you suddenly just evaporate all the storytelling of a Bochlwyd. If you want to translate it off the cuff, it's called grey cheek, but boch is a type of animal. It's a young buck, and it's a grey buck, and it ties into mythology, you know, that this buck was being chased by hounds through the Carnarau, and he leapt into the lake and disappeared into the Anwfn, which is the underworld. How wonderful is that? Don't change it to Australia Lake. So when in regards to what I would like to see if policy came in, is that we made sure, at least on maps and signs and, you know, books and publications, that's called Llyn Bochlwyd, that we don't change Australia Lake. But there is complication when it comes to historical names of some of our well-known peaks, such as Awydfa. Start pulling at a thread, you get this reams in the tapestry of how the landscape was used. Sometimes the place name tells you exactly what was growing there, what colour the field is. You can't separate them. You can't separate who we are as people from the language and from the names that we have in the landscape. You just can't. And once you start killing off one, you lose the rest.
I have come to know the mountain as I do now, through the people who have shared its stories. Learning to pronounce Welsh place names has brought the realisation of how much easier it is for my mouth to produce the English versions. It has developed a deeper appreciation for the history and mythology that ties place names to people to landscape, connected by intangible threads that weave through the past and the present. The ease of which I consume the landscape, tracing the outlines of the ridges, is shallow alone. Seeking out place names through people, however, enriches an understanding of coming to know a landscape. You're with that.